Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Shanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Mission Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveta Gaur Bhaktivrinda Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 26, King Puranjana goes to the forest to hunt. Text 24. Please repeat. Tasmin dade damamaham tava vira patni. Tasmin dade damamaham tava vira patni. Yonyatra bhusara kulat krita kilbishastam. Yonyatra bhusara kulat krita kilibishastam. Pashyena vita bhayam unmuditam trilokyam. Pashyena vita bhayam unmuditam trilokyam. Anyatra vai Muraripu itaratra dasat. Anyatra vai Muraripu itaratra dasat. Tasmin dadedam amaham tava vira patni. Yonyatra bhusara kulat krita kilbishastam. So just one word about that. That little apostrophe that you see there, above or just before the N. Yes, that is anyatra, but according to the Sanskrit rules of sandhi, it's silent, so that we get the proper number of syllables for that particular meter, which is vasantilaka, which is 14 syllables per meter. So instead of saying yo anyatra bhushara, yes, it is anyatra, but the way we say it is yonyatra. Instead of yo anyatra, it's yonyatra. Yonyatra bhusara kulat kritikil bishastam. Yes, perfect. Pashyena vita bhayam unmuditam trilokyam. Anyatra vai Muraripu itaratra dasat. Trilokyam. Trilokyam. Muraripu itaratra dasa. Tasmin dade damamaham tava vira patni. Yonyatra bhusara kulat krita kilbishastam. Pashyena vita bhayamunmiditam trilokyam. Anyatra vai Muraripu itaratra dasa. Tasmin, unto him, dade, shall give, damam, punishment, aham, I, tava, to you, Vira Patni, O wife of the hero, Yaha, one who, Anyatra, besides, Bhusura Kulat, from the group of demigods on this earth, the brāhmanas, Krita, done, Kilbishaha, offense, Tam, him, Pashe, I see, Na, not, Vita, without, Bhayam, fear, Unmuditam, without anxiety, Trilokyam, within the three worlds, Anyatra, elsewhere, Vai, certainly, Muraripoho, of the enemy of Mura, Kṛṣṇa, Itaratra, on the other hand, Dasat, then the servant. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. O hero's wife, kindly tell me if someone has offended you. I am prepared to give such a person punishment as long as he does not belong to the brāhmaṇa caste. But for the servant of Muraripu, Kṛṣṇa, I excuse no one within or beyond these three worlds. No one can freely move after offending you, for I am prepared to punish him. Purport. According to Vedic civilization, a brāhmaṇa, or one who is properly qualified to understand the absolute truth, that is, one belonging to the most intelligent social order, as well as the devotee of Lord Kṛṣṇa, who is known as Muradvisha, enemy of a demon named Mura, is not subject to the rules and regulations of the state. In other words, upon breaking the laws of the state, everyone can be punished by the government except the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas never transgress the laws of the state or the laws of nature, because they know perfectly well the resultant reactions caused by such law breaking. Even though they may sometimes appear to violate the laws, they are not to be punished by the king. This instruction was given to King Prachina Barishat by Narada Muni. King Puranjana was a representative of King Prachini Barishat, and Narada Muni was reminding King Prachina Barishat of his forefather, Maharaj Prithu, who never chastised a Brahmana or a Vaishnava. One's pure intelligence or pure Kṛṣṇa consciousness becomes polluted by material activities. Pure consciousness can be revived by the process of sacrifice, charity, pious activities, etc. But when one pollutes his Kṛṣṇa consciousness by offending a Brahmana or a Vaishnava, it is very difficult to revive. So we can note a difference between pure consciousness and Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So there's pure consciousness and then there's transcendental consciousness or Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Pure consciousness, Srila Prabhupada is saying, like in the mode of goodness, which elevates you to piety. And that is done through activities like sacrifice, charity, and pious activities. You come to the mode of goodness, but those activities are not enough to become transcendental. For that you have to practice Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described the Vaishnava aparad, or offense to a Vaishnava, as the mad elephant offense. Does anyone know what the Sanskrit name of that is? Mad elephant offense? Other way around. Hatti Mata aparad. Right? Mad. Hatti Mata. Mad means like I think mad. Hatti obviously is elephant. It's a mad elephant offense. One should be very careful not to offend a Vaishnava or a Brāhmaṇa. Even the great yogi Durvasa was harassed by the Sudarshan Chakra when he offended the Vaishnava Maharaj Ambarish, who was neither a Brāhmana nor a sannyasi, but an ordinary householder. Maharaj Ambarish was a Vaishnava, and consequently Durvasa Muni was chastised. The conclusion is that if Krishna consciousness is covered by material sins, one can eliminate the sins simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. But if one pollutes his Krishna consciousness by offending a Brāhmana or a Vaishnava, one cannot revive it until one properly atones for the sin by pleasing the offended Vaishnava or Brāhmana. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that there is a difference between pap and aparad. Right? So pap is sin and aparad is offense. We'll discuss a bit about that in the class. But he explains that this is in he explains that pap it covers the material body, the physical body, and the subtle body. But aparad, it covers the soul. Aparad directly comes between the soul and Krishna. Whereas pap or sin can be easily eradicated through, for example, chanting or reciting a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada here is saying by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, by performing activities in Krishna consciousness, sin is easily eradicated by fasting on Ekadashi, etc. But by performing aparad, an offense to Nam, to Seva, to Jiva, to Vaishnava, that covers the soul. It covers our relationship. It comes in the way between our relationship with Krishna. This was the course that Durvasa Muni had to follow, for he surrendered unto Maharaj Ambarish. A Vaishnava aparad cannot be atoned for by any means other than by begging the pardon of the offended Vaishnava. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Khadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We are continuing with the sojourn of Puranjana in this allegory. I think you summarized yesterday at the start of your class about how Puranjana was out hunting. He killed many animals, but then he got bored and he wanted to return back to his palace. So this demonstrates the principle of bhoga and tyaga when it comes to material enjoyment. Puranjana's venture out into the forest to kill animals represents the pursuit of the conditioned souls, for the conditioned soul to pursue sense gratification through the association of material objects. Right? Bhagavad Gita says that when material objects come in contact with the material senses, the result is temporary and it results in dukkha. So this is a great technique or strategy of Maya to make us think that we will be fulfilled and content in when our senses come in contact with sense objects. And we keep falling for it time and time and time and again, lifetime after lifetime. That's why it says bahunam janmanam ante, right? It takes many lifetimes for us to come to the point of realization. But we can get there quicker by reading the Shastra. We can get there faster by taking good advice and good instruction from the Vaishnavas who are already self-realized. Just try to learn the truth by approaching the self-realized spiritual master. Render service to such a spiritual master, inquire submissively from him, and he will impart the truth to you because he has seen the truth. It says in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So bhoga and tyaga, he was enjoying in the forest, killing animals. He got tired, he wanted to come back. The other day I was talking to one devotee, and he was mentioning that he met a devotee on the street who was a bit fed up with his mature life. So I told him that's a perfect time, it's a perfect opportunity to bring them into Kṛṣṇa consciousness, because one of the 4 types of pious men or pious human beings which approach Kṛṣṇa is one who is in distress. Right? So as the conditioned soul is going through bhoga, material enjoyment, and then tyaga, they get burnt out, and then they think, I better renounce, I better stop this, sinful activity, this bad activity, whatever it is. That's the perfect time for the devotee to intervene, give them Kṛṣṇa consciousness, and hopefully they can accept the higher taste, and for them to come to Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So we always have that opportunity as devotees. And that is an element which is there in Krishna's system, right? Frustration, which comes about through enjoying the senses, so that it gives the conditioned soul an opportunity to surrender to Kṛṣṇa. That opportunity is always given. If Kṛṣṇa didn't give us the opportunity, then we would continuously, ever continuously enjoy sense gratification. If we enjoyed sense gratification and it brought us pleasure, we would do more sense gratification. Then it would bring us more pleasure. Then we would keep doing more sense gratification, get more pleasure. It would keep going on and on and on. How would we ever turn to Kṛṣṇa? So Kṛṣṇa is very merciful, Gopinath is very merciful. He has arranged it in such a way so that after a certain point in time, there is a point of satiation. We get fed up, we get bored. And we want to do something else, or we want to stop that for some point in time. So that is the opportunity, right? So he comes back home, and then it's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that he bathes and he anoints his body with nice fragrant oils, and he puts on a garland. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport there that represents the conditioned soul coming in contact with Kṛṣṇa consciousness and the spiritual master. Finally, there is some relief. You come out of the forest of material enjoyment, you come back home, right, to the temple. This is our home. And someone gives you a maha garland, you put that on. Someone gives you Nrsimha oil, right? So you're at home now. So that is akin to the conditioned soul coming into Kṛṣṇa consciousness. But then Srimad Bhagavatam mentions that again he was swayed by lusty desires. Okay, so that's something, again, as I mentioned, we'll discuss. I want to try to summarize a small portion of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Madhurya Kadambani, which talks about different types of anarthas, and it talks about different types of obstacles that we face in the path of bhakti, at least part of the book. Because Srila Prabhupada has, in his purport, he talks about pap versus anartha, pap versus offense. So I want to try to summarize that. But first, what's happening right now? Puranjan is trying to pacify his queen, and the queen represents the intelligence. But because he's under the sway of lusty desires, that's going to contaminate the intelligence. You'll see in the next chapter that the queen, instead of giving him good counsel, as the good intelligence is supposed to do, they actually end up engaging in sense gratification, both of them. And, it continues, and eventually Puranjana, he dies, he takes on another birth, he becomes a woman, because that's what he was meditating on in the final moments of his life. So this is the difference between pure intelligence versus lusty intelligence, or materially contaminated intelligence. Now, a very interesting example is given here in Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, nowadays it's a bit hard to understand it, but at least traditionally, we could say that men, they had self-control, they were practiced in brahmacharya, they had really good leadership qualities. So it was considered that the man was the leader of the household, right? And the man was, or the husband was the guru of the wife, right? And he would marry a dharma patni, right? Srila Prabhupada mentioned this in previous purports as well. So the wife traditionally listens to the husband's direction, and gives the husband good counsel, good advice when he's in difficulty, so that he can navigate himself and the family through the mature world towards Kṛṣṇa consciousness. This is the purpose of the intelligence, right? So the husband, or Puranjana, represents the spirit soul. The queen, or the wife, represents the intelligence. And here we see a situation where the soul, Puranjana, is starting to compromise with his intelligence. And we see a similar situation in Ramayana, especially in the beginning of Ramayana. This is just the day before Lord Ramchandra's coronation. You may know that Dashrath Maharaj had 3 wives. What are the names of the 3 wives of Dashrath? Does anyone know? Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra. And who was the son of Kaushalya? Ramchandra. And the son of Kaikeyi? Bharat. And the son of Sumitra? Sons of Sumitra? Yes, Lakshman and Shatrughan. So, as the story goes, Kaikeyi was once on a chariot with her husband Dashrath, and there was a battle that ensued, and Dashrath was wounded by an arrow, and at that time Kaikeyi, being a Kshatrani, she actually saved Dashrath's life, King Dashrath's life. She took hold of the reins, and she steered the chariot, she drove the chariot out from danger, basically, and she saved Maharaj Dashrath's life. So basically, as a result of that, King Dashrath gave his wife Kaikeyi 2 boons. 2 boons. And just the day before Ramchandra's coronation, we see that Kaikeyi was in her chamber, and then along came Mantra came. Now Mantra was like she was like a senior lady within the household, but she started to poison Kaikeyi's consciousness. Although Kaikeyi was, very chaste, and she was very cooperative with her co-wives, and she very much respected and served King Dashrath, she started to get influenced by the sort of poison that Mantra was spreading. So again, here we see Kaikeyi represents the good intelligence, the pure intelligence, but when that intelligence comes in contact with the 3 modes of material nature, it becomes contaminated. And instead of helping the spirit soul, helping Dashrath to rule the kingdom properly, well, we'll see what happens as a result. So basically, Mantra poisons Kaikeyi, and she tells Kaikeyi that, hey, if Ramchandra becomes the king, then your son Bharat will not get that position. Kaushalya will become the favorite wife of Ramchandra, and you will become a slave. You will become a slave of Kaushalya. And initially she tries to resist this. No, it's not going to happen, this, that. But eventually she falls for these lies that mantra is speaking. So then what happens? Kaikeyi goes to the sulking chamber. So back then the palaces, they had a sulking chamber where the queens could go. And that was a signal for the king that something is definitely wrong in the household. And Dasharatha Maharaj immediately came to the sulking chamber and he saw Kaikeyi on the floor. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes were strewn everywhere. And he asked, "What's wrong?" And she said, "Remember the time when you gave me the 2 boons? I want to use them now." He said, "Okay, if this is going to pacify you, fine, tell me what your boons are." Boon number 1, make my son Bharat as the king. And boon number 2, banish or exile Ramchandra from the kingdom. So this is what contaminated intelligence can do. As a result, what happened to Dasharatha? Because he listened to the contaminated intelligence, right? We're following the same analogy as this Puranjan example, where Kaikeyi represents the contaminated intelligence, King Dasharatha represents the spirit soul, right? He listened to the contaminated intelligence and he lost the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He banished Kṛṣṇa outside of his heart. He banished Ramchandra outside of his kingdom because he listened to lusty intelligence. And what happened when he banished Lord Ramchandra from his kingdom? Did he live happily ever after? No. He died. He lost his life. So it's a very analogous example that we see in Lord Ramchandra's pastime. And an interesting point that I remember Muraripu brought up in one of his Vyas Puja offerings to Srila Prabhupada. He quoted the example. Now, Dasharatha, because of listening to Kaikeyi, he lost the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ramchandra. Who can be blamed for that? Who can be blamed for listening to the mind, to the intelligence? Only we can be blamed. So in Muraripu he was quoting Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada gives the example of planes flying in formation. Perhaps you've heard this example from Srila Prabhupada. He said, currently our situation, right, while we are practicing Kṛṣṇa consciousness as sadhaka bhaktas in the association of other devotees, in the association of our God brothers, our God sisters, we're just like one plane flying in formation with other planes. Right? So everyone wakes up for Mangalarti, right? They attend Bhagavatam class, they take prasad together. These are like planes flying in formation. Right? One plane turns this way, banks this way, all the planes, they turn that way. And it looks very nice. We're practicing Kṛṣṇa consciousness together in association. But if one of the planes is shot down, right? And it's going down, it's going to hit the ground. Can the other planes do anything to help? It's not possible. So Srila Prabhupada says that is like the time of death. At the time of death, you have other devotees around you, supporting you, this, that, while you're practicing Kṛṣṇa consciousness. But the time of death, that is where you as an individual are tested. How strong is your Kṛṣṇa consciousness? And he mentions that it's very easy for us to blame other people, other devotees, because I didn't advance in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. It's very easy to blame the situation. Oh, because the situation was like that, I stopped practicing bhakti. Or because I had an argument with such and such a devotee, I left Kṛṣṇa consciousness. It's very easy for us to pass he says, the buck of responsibility onto someone else. But he quotes Srila Prabhupada again, and Srila Prabhupada says, we cannot blame anyone else except for ourselves for our lack of advancement in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. It's a very powerful point. That means we have to take the responsibility. We can say, my situation is like that, I have to work a job, I have this responsibility, that responsibility, but at the end of the day, we got ourselves into the situation that we are currently in, and we have to take responsibility ultimately to become Kṛṣṇa conscious. So Muraripu quotes that, very powerful. And he says, instead of waiting for an inspiration to come your way, oh, I'll practice bhakti in a very dedicated way when I get inspired by such and such person. He says, we should take it upon ourselves to become inspiring devotees for the benefit of others. What's stopping us from becoming a pure devotee? What's stopping us from becoming an advanced devotee in Krishna consciousness? Why should we wait and depend for someone else to come along for us to advance in Krishna consciousness? Srila Prabhupada has given us everything that we need to become advanced in Krishna consciousness. He's given us temples, He's given us devotees, He's given us the books, He's given us the Mahamantra. What is stopping us from becoming advanced in Krishna consciousness? So as sadhaka bhaktas, sincerely practicing Krishna consciousness, we should aspire at least to become responsible and advanced devotees for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada, take up responsibilities in his mission, leadership responsibilities in his mission. We have a lot of devotees on the sidelines. Yes, most devotees will remain on the sidelines, but at the same time we need leaders as well. So we need each one, like I heard from some disciples of Jayapataka Maharaj, that Maharaj is requested, or he has instructed his disciples something like he wants 10,000 acharyas. Is that correct, Prabhu? 10,000 acharyas, Maharaj has said. All my grihastha disciples should have their sons as acharyas. So the point is that he is pushing, Maharaj is pushing his... You can see the pressure on some of the Prabhu's faces. Yeah. So you need to take up responsibility. Okay, we can't be a new bhakta for the rest of our life. Okay. So what stops us from advancing in Krishna consciousness? We'll discuss that now. It's a little bit technical, but as Ganashampru quotes Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, if you want to remember, then remember means to write down. Because in Kali Yuga, unless you write something down, it's very hard for you to remember it. Okay? So this is a small excerpt which I'm attempting to summarize from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Madhurya Kadambini. Now, you know the 9 stages of bhakti? Yes? Can someone quickly tell me the 9 stages of bhakti? Sadhu Sangha, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivriti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, and Prem. Okay? Now, you can picture that Shraddha, right? Shraddha, Bhajana Kriya, Sadhu Sangha and Bhajana Kriya and Anartha Nivriti. In these 4 stages, it's like climbing a very steep mountain. Right? It's said to be the most difficult stage of bhakti. Because here you're fully conditioned with your anarthas and you're trying very hard to get rid of these unwanted conditionings. Right? So it's like climbing a very steep mountain. So once you've cleared the Anartha Nivriti stage, that's like reaching the top of the mountain, right? That's when you come to Nishtha. And then it's explained that once you get Ruchi, the taste that you develop in Krishna consciousness, in practicing Krishna consciousness, that itself pushes you gradually, organically towards Prema. So that's like descending down the other side of the mountain, right? It's very easy, or it's easier to descend than it is to climb, usually. So I want to sort of talk about the ascending part of the mountain. So I want to talk about Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and Anartha Nivriti. Okay? Now, who has read the Nectar of Devotion? Yeah? In the first chapter of Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada explains that there are 6 symptoms of bhakti. Does anyone know what they are? Yes, Prabhu? Yes, Kleshagni, Shubhada, Mokshala Gurta Krit, Sandrananda, Visheshatma, Shri Kṛṣṇa akarshani cha saha. So Kleshagni means that pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distresses. This is the first. And if you don't know this, please write down. These are 6 symptoms of bhakti. Kleshagni, pure devotional service, brings immediate relief from material distress. Shubhada means pure devotional service is the beginning of all auspiciousness. Moksha laguta krit, this is the third symptom of bhakti. Those in pure devotional service deride even the concept of liberation. That means that bhakti is even beyond mukti. The fourth one is sudurlabha. Pure devotional service is rarely achieved. Why is it rarely achieved? Because when one practices Krishna consciousness, one makes Krishna obliged. And that's a very high level, to make Krishna obliged to you by your devotional service. So therefore Krishna gives it very rarely to select jivas who are really qualified, who have the adhikar. Sandrananda Visheshatma, which means that the pure devotional service automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure. And Shri Kṛṣṇa akarshani chasaha, which means that pure devotional service is the only means to attract Krishna. Okay, so these are the 6 symptoms of bhakti. Now the first stage of bhakti is called Shraddha. Shraddha shabde vishwas kahe sudrida nishchaya Krishna karma kaila sarva karma krita haya. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is the definition of Shraddha. Shraddha means to have firm faith in Krishna consciousness, such that if I practice Krishna bhakti, everything else will be taken care of. I don't need to go outside of bhakti. I don't need to do anything. Even material response, I don't need to do that. If I just fully focus on Krishna bhakti, that will take care of everything. That will give me the highest perfection in life. This is the basis of Shraddha, according to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So when one develops this faith, this attraction to Krishna consciousness, he then comes in the association of devotees. Okay? This stage is called Sadhu Sangha. So Shraddha pushes the conditioned soul to come to Sadhu Sangha. When the conditioned soul comes to the stage of Sadhu Sangha, then immediately 2 things happen. Kleshagni and Shubhada. The first 2 symptoms of bhakti, which is that devotional service brings immediate relief from material distress, that sprouts up in the devotee's heart, and Shubhada, auspiciousness, sprouts up in the devotee's heart. The remaining 4 symptoms of bhakti come when you reach bhava and prema. Right? So only the first 2 symptoms are there when you start Krishna consciousness from the stage of sadhu sangha. Now, in the stage, when you come to sadhu sangha, in the association of devotees, what do devotees do? Let's say you're a new devotee, right? You've come to the temple, and now you're in the association of devotees. What do devotees tell you to do? Chant Hare Krishna, what else? I've seen some of you Prabhus, when you see someone new, you'll tell them to offer flowers to Prabhupada, and it will be the first time this person is in the temple and you're telling him to do Dandavat Pranams. Just like a baby, they don't know what's happening. Oh, he's doing it? Okay, I'll do it as well. Right? So you're teaching them. So this is the start of bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya means when you start practicing practical devotional service by the instructions of Guru or the sadhu. So when you tell them to bow down, that is the immediate start of their bhajana kriya. Right? They've already come to the temple by their shraddha, they're in the association of devotees, and now they're doing something for Krishna. They're doing something for Srila Prabhupada. Their bhajana kriya has started. Now, I'm talking about this stage, so we're up to bhajana kriya now. Okay, so we have bhajana kriya and then anartha nivritti left to discuss. So in bhajana kriya, it is characterized by anishtita bhakti, which means unsteady bhakti. When we are in the stage of bhajana kriya, our bhakti is unsteady, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains. And he explains that it's unsteady because of 6 different things. Okay? So, as we discuss this, try to see how these relate to you currently. Right? So that you can improve yourself in Krishna consciousness. He says that the 6 symptoms of unsteady devotion for a sadhaka that a sadhaka must overcome is as follows. Number 1 is called utsaha mai, which means initial enthusiasm. For example, he explains that a brāhmaṇa child having just begun the study of the scriptures thinks immediately that he's become a great scholar. And he thinks that he can sort of talk down at people. So sometimes you may have realized that in yourself, right? You may have chanted all your 16 rounds without falling asleep, or you may finish reading Bhagavad Gita. Immediately you think you're qualified now. Right? So this, let's say, false pride that comes up, that is caused by utsaha mai. We lose our humility. Just because we get some quick initial successes in bhakti, it makes us proud. This is utsaha mai. The second one is called gana tarala. Gana tarala, which means thick and thin practice. The same child diligently engages in his studies, and yet at other times, due to inability to understand the school books or lack of real taste, is negligent. So sometimes we take up a service, and initially we're very enthusiastic about doing the service, but then after some time what happens? We lose interest. We lose motivation. We lose focus. Why does this happen? It's mentioned that Raghunath Das Goswami was so fixed up in his sadhana that it was like lines engraved on a stone. If you engrave a line on a stone, it stays there, it's not going to go anywhere. But in Anishtita Bhakti, our Bhakti is not like that. That means some days we'll do a service, if it's convenient for us, some days we won't. This is known as Gana Tarala. The third one is called Vyuda Vikalpa, oscillating resolve. This is very interesting. This is when our mind gets in the way of our advancement in Krishna consciousness. So he explains, shall I spend my life happily in family life in Krishna consciousness, making my wife and children Krishna conscious and worshipping the Lord? Or should I give them all up and go to Vrindavan to perfect myself in engaging in full-time hearing and chanting with no distractions? Shall I wait till the last stage of my life, after enjoying all sorts of pleasures, to practice Krishna Bhakti? Or, knowing the importance of Krishna Bhakti, should I just start practicing Krishna Bhakti intensely now? So our mind keeps, distracting us by saying, you should do this, but then you should do this as well. What should I do? I don't know, and it wastes our time. Yeah, you all have practical experience of this? Yes, so that means these things are affecting us right now. And it's good to know or to be aware of these things, and because it's very comforting that our acharyas have actually analyzed Krishna consciousness in a very scientific way, because sometimes we think that this is something that's just affecting us. This problem is just affecting me. It's a unique problem. Others are not having this problem. No, but it's already been analyzed very expertly by our acharyas. Right? All these problems that we face as struggling sadhakas in the beginning stages of bhakti. Number 4 is Vishaya Sangraha, a very common one, struggling with sense gratification. Right? When we take our initiation vows, we have to follow the 4 regulative principles. But then, as we practice Krishna Bhakti, the old samskars come back and they propel us, engage in sense gratification again. Even within Krishna consciousness, we may be subtly pursuing sense gratification. For example, as an example, Mahaprasad. Mahaprasad is what? Mahaprasad is Krishna himself. So when we honor Mahaprasad, our consciousness should be exactly that. It should be to honor Mahaprasad. But sometimes we may have the consciousness that, let me enjoy Mahaprasad. So that is the mentality that we are trying to enjoy Krishna instead of serve Krishna. You understand? So all these type of enjoying mentalities within Krishna consciousness. I am the enjoyer, and let me enjoy sense gratification even within the realm of bhakti. This is known as Vishaya Sangraha. Then comes Niyama Kshama, is also something very relevant. The inability to uphold vows. I remember in Karmi life, right, on the 1st of January, everyone makes New Year's resolutions, right? But then very quickly, after a couple of weeks or after a couple of months, they fail. So that tendency is also brought into bhakti, the inability to uphold vows. The devotee will resolve, from today I will chant such and such number of rounds of japa, and I will pay so many obeisances. I'll also perform services for the devotees. I won't talk about anything except for the pure devotional service of the Lord. And I'll give up all association with people who talk gossip. Though the devotee makes such resolutions every day, he is not able to carry them out. This is called niyamakshama, or the inability to follow rules. Vishaya sangraha is the inability to give up sense enjoyment, while niyamakshama is the inability to improve one's devotional service. And the last one that affects us in the stage of bhajana kriya is called taranga rangini, enjoying the mundane benefits of bhakti. Krishna is all attractive, so when we come to Krishna consciousness, we also develop Krishna's qualities as well, to a minute degree. That makes us also attractive, that makes us also opulent as well. So we try to exploit and enjoy these qualities. That is known as taranga rangini. So very quickly, I know we have about 5 or 6 minutes left. We have to overcome these 6 things in the stage of bhajana kriya to then come to the stage of anartha nivritti. Now it's not like it's set in stone, like we are on the stage of anartha nivritti, then we progress to nishtha, then we progress to ruchi. It's not like that. You may be on a combination of different stages at the same time, right? So in anartha nivritti, he explains that there are 4 different types of anarthas. Okay, anarthas is not just some vague thing. It's scientifically elucidated by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He explains that there's 4 different types of anarthas. Anarthas which arise from previous sin, anarthas which arise from previous pious activities, anarthas which arise from imperfectly performed bhakti, and anarthas which arise from aparad, or offenses. And that is the point that Srila Prabhupada is talking about in today's purport. Anarthas arising from previous sin are known as dushkratota anarthas. These are the anarthas which propel us to perform sinful activities again and again, even though we come to bhakti. Anarthas arising from previous pious activities are called sukratota anarthas. And these are anarthas which make us want to desire mukti and bhukti. Bhukti means sense enjoyment within bhakti. And mukti means, but for bhukti, bhukti also refers to wanting to be elevated to the heavenly planets. Now Srila Prabhupada, I've heard from devotees that Srila Prabhupada said that he was worried because he was thinking that most of his devotees would not go back to Godhead, but they would be elevated to the heavenly planets. Why is that? Because they were practicing Krishna consciousness with material desires. So they would be elevated to Swarga, where they would be able to fulfill their material desires, but they'll still be in the company of devotees, because in the heavenly planets everyone's a devotee. So that's an important lesson for us, that when we practice Krishna consciousness, it should be devoid of desires for bhukti, mukti, siddhi, right? All these things. That's that definition of bhakti, right? By Rupa Goswami. What is that definition? Anyabhilashita shunyam, jnana karma anavritam. Our practice of devotional service should be free from jnana, karma, anavritam. There's one syllable there that he says, adi, yes, which also refers to siddhi, which comes through the practice of yoga, right? Hatha yoga or ashtanga yoga. Okay, so that's anarthas arising from sin, anarthas arising from pious activity. Anarthas arising from imperfectly performed bhakti. These are of three types, and they go from gross to more subtle. The first one is called labh. Labh refers to worldly gain and material acquisition. The desire to gain money, properties, resources, wealth. Just like Srila Prabhupada gave the example of his Guru Maharaj. He quotes his Guru Maharaj saying that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a little bit fed up because when he built the Bhagwazar temple, the devotees who were living in that temple, they became attached to the facilities of the temple. And they thought, I'm the resident of this room, I'll take up this position, this, that. And so he told Srila Prabhupada that it's bringing me such headache, I think it is better for me to sell the marble from this temple and print books instead. Okay? So that is an example of labh. Then comes puja. Puja is a little bit more subtle than labh. Whereas labh is talking about physical, tangible, material things that we want to acquire in bhakti. Puja is about wanting social elevation and honor in bhakti. We want to hold certain positions, right? We want to climb up the ashrama ladder, take sannyas one day, right? Not for the service of Kṛṣṇa, but for prestige and honor. These could be reasons that are motivating us, and we need to weed these desires out. The last one is called pratishta. Pratishta means wanting lasting fame and reputation. So something which lasts for a very long time. And then there's anarthas. This is the fourth anartha. Anarthas which arise from offenses in devotional service. This is nam aparad, seva aparad. But the most vicious type of aparad is Vaishnava aparad. And I'll finish with what Jiva Goswami says about Vaishnava aparad. He explains that there's 5 different types of Vaishnava aparad. Sorry, there's 6 different types of Vaishnava aparad that we should be careful of. The first one is one who kills a devotee. So please don't do that. Number 2, one who blasphemes devotees. So we should, as we're reading these out, we should contemplate and see if we have done this. And if we have, we should contemplate within ourselves how we can stop doing this and how we can improve ourselves. Number 3, one who is envious of devotees. I remember Ganashampu was telling me of a certain senior devotee in our congregation he's no longer here, he's moved to somewhere else because of his work circumstances. But he was telling me recently that when Ganashampu was relatively new in bhakti, this devotee was sort of giving some guidance to Prabhu. And he said that, he told Ganashampu that when you see someone especially empowered in Krishna consciousness, you can have 2 reactions. Either you can become envious of the person, right? How can that person come to that position? I want to be there. Or you can be respectful to that person. And if you are respectful and you maintain a service attitude, then you will also naturally get those qualities from the person. So there's 2 different reactions we can have. So he was telling Ganashampu that when you see someone who is especially empowered, don't become envious of them. Maintain a distance and pay your obeisances and pay respects to that person. And by doing this, we can also develop that quality as well. So we should not become envious of devotees. Number 4, one who fails to offer obeisances to Vaishnavas upon seeing them. I remember one devotee from Nepal, he was telling me that the culture that they have in the ashram there, I'm not sure if it's the main temple in Kathmandu or maybe somewhere else in Nepal, but he was saying that they have a culture that anytime you see a devotee for the first time in the day, you have to offer your dandavat pranam to that devotee. Right? So if you're in a temple with 20 other devotees, that means every single day you will offer 20 dandavats. The first time you see that particular devotee in the day, you have to offer dandavats. So that may or may not be practical. So at least we should say Hare Krishna. We should do Anjali Mudra, show our pranams to the devotee, like that. So we should offer respects to the devotee. Number 5, one who becomes angry with the Vaishnava. And number 6, one who does not become joyful upon seeing a Vaishnava. So when we see other devotees, even though we may not get along with them or we may have different views on how to serve Krishna, it does not mean that we should maintain a grimace-like face. We should genuinely be happy and pleased to see them. At least we should make the attempt. We should try. And as Vishnu Jan Maharaj said, you fake it till you make it, it will become genuine over a period of time. So regardless of what opinion you have about another devotee, and that's natural because we're all personal, we all have our different views and all that sort of, but we use our individual free will to voluntarily become submissive to devotees. And at least smile and offer your obeisance to the devotee. And Radheshyam Prabhu mentions in this regard that we should have at least a Haribol relationship with all the devotees in the ashram, all the devotees in the temple. At least we should be close enough to them to be able to at least open our mouth and say Haribol. If not Hare Krishna, at least Haribol we should be able to say, right? And I'll just finish with this. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is a very, very important point, okay? Especially when it comes to Vaishnava Parad. Sometimes when we commit an offense to a Vaishnava, he says in Madhuri Kadambini, he says that because of the exalted nature of that Vaishnava, it may look that that Vaishnava has not taken any offense, right? Perhaps you may have been in a situation where you did something wrong and something is telling you, Paramatma is telling you in your heart, you did something wrong, you stepped over the line, you criticized a devotee, you looked at a devotee in the wrong way or something like that, right? And you may have offended a devotee. But if you look at the devotee looks very peaceful. He doesn't look agitated or disturbed, and you think he's a very exalted devotee. He doesn't look offended. So let me not apologize to the devotee. After all, the devotee is not offended. If he was offended, he would come and show it to me that he was offended. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that even if the Vaishnava is not offended, the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnava takes the offense. And you still get the result. It's a very interesting point, right? So you may offend a pure devotee or an exalted devotee, and that devotee will not be offended. He will not show anything, and genuinely he will not be offended. But he says the dust of the lotus feet of that Vaishnava takes the offense. How can you offend such a great Vaishnava? The dust takes the offense, and therefore the offender still gets the offense. So it's like Prabhupada says, we're walking on a razor's edge. We're living with Vaishnavas. It's very tense. So we should genuinely be sober in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so I'll finish here. Prabhupada is talking about Vaishnava Parad, so I thought I'd just mention those few points from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So thank you very much. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.